Praise the Lord. This is Dr. Cason with another episode of Nuggets in the Word. Today I will be reading another poem, and it is entitled, What Manner of Man is This? What manner of man is this? Great power is in his hand. How can he forgive sins? How can he heal our land? He walked upon the waters. He calmed the raging sea. He made the lame to walk. He caused the blind to see. He touched a man with a demon, and the demon had to flee. He told the paralyzed man to rise. He said, Thy sins are forgiven thee. What kind of man is he? How could he do these things? He came with salvation. He came to be King of Kings. 10 lepers came to him. They cried out, Lord, help us, please. He said, Go show yourself to the priest. And they were cured of their disease. What can we say of this man who had 5,000 people over for dinner? He did great and marvelous wonders, yet they called him a sinner. He came out of Judea of Galilee, and a nobleman's son was almost dead. Go thy way, your son lives. This is what Jesus said. He stood by a well, and with a woman he began to talk. He told an impotent man to take up his bed and walk. He had a meeting with Nicodemus, who came to him secretly by night. He spoke to 2 blind men, and they received their sight. A woman had been sick and been over for 18 years. But Jesus said to her, Be made whole of all thine ills. On the way to a funeral, a widow's son had died. But Jesus touched the casket and said to him, Arise. He talked in parables. Great truths he revealed. He preached to the lost and destitute, and all the sick he healed. He called 12 disciples and sent them forth to preach. He stood up in the synagogue, took the scroll, and began to teach. He went into a garden alone, there to rest and pray. He stayed there all night long and prayed until the break of day. A woman had an issue of blood and came behind him in the press. She touched the hem of his garment and was healed of her distress. A man named Jairus had a daughter who died, and he began to grieve. But Jesus said, She shall be made whole if you can only believe. He was persecuted and mocked, then hung on a cross. His blood was shed for all to save those who are lost. They pierced him in the side, and the blood ran on the ground. They laid him in a borrowed tomb and placed guards all around. But on the 3rd day, he rose again to live eternally. He went down into hell, and he set the captive free. A man who raises the dead and sets the captive free? What manner of man is this who came to save you and me? He was called a Nazarene, and he had an humble birth. What kind of man was he? He was the greatest man on earth. Hallelujah. I pray that you enjoyed that. I'm going to pause right here so that we can hear a word from our sponsor. This podcast is called Nuggets in the Word, and it was made possible by Anchor Podcasting. Anchor helps me to create a very professional and entertaining podcast in the comfort of my home. I love the simplicity of working with Anchor Podcasting. Anchor automatically distributes your podcast to platforms such as Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. If you have a desire to create a podcast, you should make Anchor your first choice. It is the easiest way that I know of to make a podcast. Praise the Lord. Thank you for staying tuned. What manner of man is this man? Jesus had the power and authority to do all kinds of great wonders, but those who did not believe wanted to know what kind of man he was. They did not want a personal relationship with him. They wanted to trap him, mock him, and kill him, all because he was not like them. He was different. How many of you can identify with being different? So many of us can understand not being a part of the crowd, not running with the majority, but feeling alone and separate. Jesus, however, came for that reason. The plan of God was that he be different, that he loved differently, so that he could deliver differently. Think about it, my friends. Maybe that is why you are different, because you have a special calling, a special assignment from God. Maybe one day God would ask you that question. What kind of person are you? What kind of person were you when you were on earth? What did you do for me? Will he say, well done, my good and faithful servant? Or will he say, depart from me? I don't know you. My friends, that's a sobering thought. I want to do what God has for me to do so that he will know my name, so that he will know who I am. What kind of man was he? He was the greatest man on earth. Look to him and live. And if you don't know him, I would admonish you to receive him into your life today. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Nuggets in the Word. Join me next time. But be sure to hit that like button and share this podcast with your friends. My books can be found on Amazon.com. They are called Nuggets in the Word and Enjoy Learning Study Books from Genesis to Revelation. Until next time, be blessed, my friends.